So I've been wanting to make this video for a little while now, and a friend of mine finally convinced me to do it. And that's because I believe that Captain America's Civil War handles politics correctly in a way that has never been done before in TV and movies and any kind of media. And I believe, without a doubt, it's one of the most political movies of recent memory. I mean, if you discount anything from Dinesh D'Souza or Michael Moore or anyone who's obviously making a political movie, Captain America's Civil War handles an age-old topic that the founders of the United States even debated, and that is liberty versus security, with Captain America advocating for liberty and Iron Man advocating for security. This is just two different ways of seeing the world and seeing how things should run. Yeah, we can get into how all the international relations fit into this, how realism fits into it, and that's been done before. I don't want to talk about that. I think it's much more interesting to talk about how they are able to present this political argument, this deeply, deeply political argument, in such a way that most people don't even know that it's a political movie. That's incredible. That's never been done before on a scale this big. The other main reason why I think Captain America Civil War handles this debate so well is because the Russo brothers put it together in such a way that not one side is clearly right over the other. Yeah, you can sympathize with your hero or the other or whatever, but they do a really, really good job of explaining why security is important and why liberty is important, and they present the arguments in such a fashion that you can go in with Team Cap or Team Iron Man or whatever, but they force you to see the other side. They force you to get their argument. And it's not an in-your-face force. It's they play on your emotions. They make you see where the other is coming from. With Iron Man wanting to protect people, feeling guilt for that kid, Richard Spencer, that died in Sokovia. And you can see Captain America, you can see Steve Rogers struggle with it because he's dealt with the World Security Council. He's dealt with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra and people in charge of him, and those people in charge making the wrong decisions. And he believes that himself and the rest of the Avengers are just more qualified to make those decisions. So a little bit of background about myself. I am a third-year political science student at a state university, and full disclosure, I am Team Cap all the way. I believe that liberty trumps security any day of the week, but the goal of this video isn't to convince you my side's right or the other side's wrong or whatever. The goal of this video is to just show how genius the Russo brothers are and how they handle this topic so well that it made me see why security is important. It made me see that there has to be a balance. You can't just have one thing over the other. And I think that's very important for people to talk about, especially in today's discourse. So let's start with the story of Steve Rogers, going all the way back to Captain America the First Avenger, back to 1943, 45, whenever it takes place, and see why he believes that he is better to be in charge than people in charge of him. And we can see throughout the first half of the movie, once he gets the super soldier serum and all that, and Tommy Lee Jones, the rest of the SSR, don't want to utilize him. They don't want to send him into battle. They don't think he's qualified. All this, that, and the other. They just want him to be their promo guy. And when he finally takes it upon himself to go into battle and storm a Hydra base by himself, it works. It works completely. He saves dozens, if not hundreds, of soldiers from probably a fate worse than death. And then he sees himself making the decision, going against his command, and he sees that working. He sees himself making the right decisions when nobody else can. Then he goes into the ice, wakes up 70 years later, and he just wants to follow orders. He wants to get back into the groove because he's so out of it, he doesn't know what to do. And he does start following orders. And they put him back into S.H.I.E.L.D. and they get him to start following orders to go after Loki by himself and everything. Then all the stuff happens on the helicarrier, and they go to New York by themselves. Him, Natasha, and Clint. They violate the direct orders they were given, and they go to New York by themselves. That's him making the decision again, contradicting those in charge of him. Then the World Security Council, World Security Court, whatever they're called, send in the nuke to New York City, and he sees that decision as just about the worst thing you could do. Luckily, Iron Man saves it, but again, it reinforces that position of, wow, I made the right decision, and the people above me couldn't? Why am I not in charge? Why are they in charge of me? That doesn't make any sense. Fast forward to Winter Soldier. That one speaks for itself. I mean, the people in charge of him were literally a part of a Nazi death cult. I mean, how much worse can you get? And he has to take it upon himself. Him, Natasha, and Sam have to dismantle S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Take it all down. And that's when we go into Age of Ultron. Not necessarily the people in charge of him, but Tony and Bruce create Ultron. When he would not have made that decision himself. He would not have done that. And he sees that as another moral failing of others. And they clean it up. They're able to fix everything. But that's got to be in the back of his mind. And you can see that in the movie. You can see the tension between him and Tony. That scene when they're chopping wood out at Hawkeye's house. You can see the tension between them because he knows Tony made the wrong decision. He knows he could have made a better decision. He knows that in his heart. It's not that he just thinks, oh, maybe I would have done this, maybe I would have done that. He knows that in his heart. Whether he's right or wrong, that's what he thinks. Fast forward again to Civil War. With Bucky, with the Accords, with everything. He sees it all lining up of, wow, the people in charge just want to kill my best friend for stuff that he wasn't responsible for. Yeah, he did it, but he was brainwashed. And he sees, again, the moral failings of those put in charge of him. He's that line from him, the safest hands are still our own. He believes, without a doubt, that they are the best defenders of Earth, and that anyone appointed over them is either going to get in the way or make the wrong decision. So that's where he's coming from. You can see his whole perspective and his evolution through his movies and the Avenger movies. You can see him solidify his stance more and more and more, slightly, just little changes at a time. And I think Winter Soldier is the final push to solidify him in that position. Now let's switch to the tale of Iron Man, which is, oddly enough, very, very similar to that of Steve Rogers. I mean, he begins Iron Man 1, he gets captured, has to break himself out, and decides to take matters into his own hands because the people, not necessarily in charge of him, but the people that are supposed to be doing this job are not fulfilling the position. And he takes it upon himself to do it. And so that kind of puts him on the same path as Steve Rogers. And it's really interesting to see his evolution sort of mirror Steve, but you can see throughout Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 that Tony Stark sees the same problems that Steve Rogers does, but Tony Stark also sees the danger that he puts his loved ones in when he makes those decisions. Like in Iron Man 3, when he has Happy tail that guy that was the extremist guy, and then Happy gets blown up. Thankfully, he survived, but he almost didn't. And Tony sees that, and he takes that personally. He puts that on him. You can see in Spider-Man Homecoming, he takes everything very personally. Anybody that gets hurt, anyone close to him, he takes very, very personally, and he takes it hard. So, not that Steve Rogers doesn't care about other people, but he doesn't have that many close people around him. He's a pretty solitary guy. Tony, he's a very out there guy. He's a very open personality. He has lots of friends. He has Pepper. He has Happy. He had Obadiah Stane, and he saw the betrayal, and he saw the damage that he did to people when he made these decisions. And the seeing Pepper fall supposedly to her death in Iron Man 3 was probably one of the pushing off points for him to set him down this path of, holy crap, if I had help, this wouldn't have happened. And luckily she came back, she was okay, Extremis saved her. Then in Civil War, that lady comes to him that tells him about her son who died in Sokovia, and that hits him very hard. That hits him harder than just about anything he's seen, because you can see it in his eyes. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is a phenomenal actor. He conveys it perfectly. You can see how distraught he is, and I think this is really just the culmination of all the pain he's been causing. He's feeling all of this. He's not just feeling the kid. He's feeling Pepper fall out of his grasp. He's watching Happy in the hospital bed. He's seeing everything culminate to this one, and it's translated just through the one kid. And I think people who focus on that are not wrong, but they're misrepresenting what Tony Stark's life has been, all the pain and suffering that he's endured, but he's kept going, and he just couldn't go on anymore without addressing this. He's obsessive. He knows he is. He knows he's not mentally well, and he can't put himself in check. He says this in Civil War. He thinks the Accords will split the difference and allow him to mend his relationship with Pepper, will temper his need to build suit after suit, to fix problem after problem. He thinks if he has a governing body, it will help keep him in check. And I mean, this goes back to his parents being taken away from him. He didn't have that governing body when he was a kid. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted. Not that his dad let him do whatever he wanted, but he was given a lot of freedom as a kid, clearly. And then once his parents were taken away from him by Bucky, he had more and more freedom, and he could do whatever he wanted. He had nobody making decisions for him. And in the long run, he saw that as a very bad thing. He was a loose cannon. That's what he turned into. So Tony Stark actually he mirrors Steve Rogers in their evolution, but along the line he flips, because he can see the damage that too much liberty causes, that too much self-sovereignty causes. People need to be monitored and put in check. This is how he sees it. And I think it's very, very interesting how it's subtle, how you can see the similarities between the two, but you can also see the differences, and it's so subtle but also so distinct that it makes both characters' positions believable and relatable. So in the end, I guess I just want to say that the Russo brothers handled it right. They handled politics right, and as a student of political science, I really, really appreciate them putting this out into movies, into media, and having people have the conversation without even having it. I mean, a lot of people I talk to, a lot of my friends, don't even think of this as a political movie. They think of it as a superhero movie. And while that's clearly at the forefront, the underlying tone is without a doubt politics, is without a doubt one of the oldest debates in politics is liberty versus security, and there's no one right answer. We need people on both sides, and it's not a left versus right issue. It's not a Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal. It doesn't split down the party lines, and I think that's why it's such a relatable topic to talk about. And that's why I think it's such an important topic to talk about, because you can do it without all the vitriol and all the hatred that seems to go around today. And it truly makes me sad when I see that. But the Russo brothers have done something incredible, and I really believe that they deserve credit for that. So what do you guys think? Were you Team Cap? Were you Team Iron Man? Did you switch in the movie? Did you see both sides? What did your friends think? Did you guys actually talk about it? Please let me know down in the comments below. I want to hear all about it, and I'll catch you guys next time.